Welcome to The Criminologist, the podcast dedicated to educating and entertaining our listeners. We bring you subject matter experts from around the world and share the latest and greatest evidence-based practices and interventions to help individuals desist from a life of crime and delinquency. This podcast avoids stereotypes and biases in favor of the lived experiences of those we can best learn from. Now, please welcome the host of The Criminologist, Joseph Arvidsson.
Hello, and welcome to episode 127 of The Criminologist podcast. Happy to have you all with us today. If you have glanced ahead and looked at the duration of this episode, you'll see that I'm bringing you what I'm referring to as a Mini-Sode, a mini episode today. As fate would have it, if all goes as planned, I will actually be in Barcelona, Spain when this episode is scheduled to drop on October 1st. Hopefully the gods of technology are smiling on me and my time release acumen plays out well and you're actually hearing this as intended on October 1st. That being said, I am not bringing you a special guest today, but rather using this as sort of a placeholder, if you will, to usher in season 4 of the Criminologist podcast and take a moment to reflect back on some of the highlights of our first 3 seasons, and also to remind some of you newer listeners about some of the fantastic resources out there brought to you by the Criminologist Media Group. If you've not yet done so, check out our YouTube channel, The Criminologist. Now, here's what's in store for you when you visit our YouTube channel, The Criminologist. I want you to pay particular attention to the playlist that I have set up for you on that channel. So not only am I bringing you my own organic videos talking all about desistance, for example, and the implementation of core correctional skills, but I'm also proud to be bringing you subject matter experts from around the world who I think you would love hearing from. So for example, when you go to the playlist, you'll see a playlist that I've set up from friend of the show, Ed the Head Flanagan. Ed makes these amazing, unique videos, and I just love sharing this with you all. They relate to his journey as a justice-involved individual, and they really are Ed's passion. So please check out that playlist that I set up. 6 videos thus far featuring Ed the Head Flanagan's work. I've also set up a playlist highlighting the work of my dear friend Sarah Lewis and her penal reform solutions. You'll see a playlist entitled Growth Alliance, and there's some great videos in there brought to you by Dr. Sarah Lewis and her great team. If you are aware of the brilliant work of Jane Mulcahy, she has her own YouTube channel entitled How to Talk Policy and Influence People. Jane's been on the show. She is fantastic. But again, if you want to see stuff straight from Jane, you can check out a sampling of her videos on my channel and then hopefully subscribe to her channel as well. We often refer to the struggles of implementation on this podcast, so I've also set up a playlist entitled Implementing Evidence-Based Practices. When you go to that list, you're going to see a lot of great work by folks such as Glenn Tapia and a lot of stuff we've learned from him and his team with ACJI. But again, I encourage you, if you're in the field, we know that implementation is the next great frontier. Check out that playlist, Implementing Evidence-Based Practices. And then finally, probably the playlist that I'm most proud of, I've set up a playlist channel within the Criminologist channel entitled Desistance from Crime. To this date, there are 21 videos related to desistance from crime. And as I referenced earlier, a lot of these are my organic homegrown videos that I have set up. So you're going to see my overview on desistance from crime. I talk about desistance from crime and identity in another video. I have a great video entitled Desistance from Crime, Pathways In, Pathways Out, that really gets at the marriage, if you will, between those of us operating under the risk, need, responsivity umbrella and those endeavoring to pair that with a desistance approach. I have some other videos I created on my own, but again, really proud to feature the works of, for example, Fergus McNeil and Shad Maruna. What desistance playlist would be complete without the works of those two brilliant individuals? So check those videos out. There's some other subject matter experts in there as well, sharing their insights around desistance. So if you can't satisfy your desistance cravings by listening to this podcast, go to the Criminologist YouTube channel and specifically check out the Desistance from Crime playlist. I will leave a link for the YouTube channel in the show notes of this episode, so you don't have to search for it. You can just click on that link, go ahead and bookmark it, save it as a favorite, or more to the point, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any new installments as they come in. I also want to point newer listeners in the direction of a couple of episodes thus far, but this will be growing, in our partnership with the American Probation and Parole Association, or APPA. We have specifically teamed up with their IRC, their International Relations Committee, to highlight some of the international work that the American Probation and Parole Association is doing. We have thus far profiled Willow Baker and Stephen Pitts. Check out those episodes, but I can assure you there are more fantastic crossover episodes coming, if you will, between the American Probation and Parole Association and the Criminologist podcast. So look out for those as well. Now, as I said, I am theoretically right now, as you're listening to this, or as this has dropped, in Barcelona. I will be training, as I've often talked about on this podcast, alongside Ion Dernescu at his International Training School on Core Correctional Skills. My plan is to do some remote podcast recording whilst I am in Barcelona, and hopefully in the future you can look forward to some on-the-road episodes, if you will, with Ion Dernescu, Fergus McNeil, who is our keynote speaker, and other great instructors this year who are going to be joining us in Barcelona, including Joe Baker, Iuliana Carbonaru, and other great subject matter experts. So again, fingers crossed, I'll be taking the equipment on the road, but hopefully we will be bringing you some of the great highlights from that fantastic International Training School on Core Correctional Skills. Who knows, maybe I can entice some students to share their insights with you all as well. Finally, I want to point you in the direction of another great resource brought to you by the Criminologist Media Group, and that is our Criminologist Podcast blog post that I've started. Actually started this about a year ago, and as too often is the case, life happens and my attention went elsewhere, but I am dedicated to reviving the blog and bringing you timely installments moving forward. A lot of the feedback that I heard from listeners was that as much as they love listening to our very special guest, rather than taking notes through the interview, sometimes folks have asked for a transcript of the interview. So what the blog is primarily going to be, or I should say continue to be, is a chance for you all to get a transcript of the podcast interviews in the event that, as they often do, our guests are dropping great references or things that you want to research later on. So I'm going to leave a link for that blog post in the description of this episode. You can go ahead and check that out, subscribe, and then again, look forward to future blog posts which will feature transcripts of some of our fantastic subject matter experts. Tired of those pesky risk factors? Fed up with those nagging periods of reoffending? Just can't seem to keep on the straight and narrow? Then try Criminogard. Criminogard is our patented repellent against criminogenic need. Criminogard is effective against the risk factors of delinquent past, dysfunctional family relationships, substance misuse, lack of pro-social leisure activities, deficits around education and employment, negative peers, pro-criminal attitude, and a history of antisocial personality pattern. Simply apply Criminogard at the onset of delinquent behavior or when actuarial risk assessment warrants application. Criminogard works by attacking criminogenic need at the source while buffering against future risk. Inspired by general personality and cognitive social learning theory, Criminogard identifies criminogenic need at its source. Then our top secret byproducts mimic pro-social modeling to elicit the onset of pro-social behavior. Once the cost for antisocial behavior outweighs the rewards, users begin seeing reductions in criminal deeds. Criminogard is available in regular, mint, or jasmine scent. Find Criminogard at all quality vendors, shops, and strip malls. Criminogard is not a substitute for proven evidence-based practices. Criminogard may cause mild discomfort or skin rash. In case of continued maladaptive behavior, users should subject themselves to proven core correctional practices. Criminogard has failed to result in significant effect sizes in recidivism reduction. Buyer beware, not sold in Canada. A little bit of humor and levity to showcase the topic of criminogenic need. I did hear from Dr. James Bonta himself, who relayed to me that he thought the spot was very humorous, so that was great to hear. Back next week with a fresh episode. In the meantime, you may contact the show or reach out to us through our website, the Paragon Group, LLC.com, for training or presentations as to core correctional skills, implementation, program design, or of course, the topic of desistance from crime. If you have questions or comments as to this podcast, feel free to contact the program via our email of thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. That's thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to follow us through our Facebook and Instagram pages at The Criminologist Podcast. New fun images are being added all the time to those feeds. You don't want to miss out. I've also mentioned the Criminologist Podcast blog. I'm going to leave a link for that in the episode description of this program. Go ahead and give that a follow as well. Speaking of following, the Criminologist Media Group is also on Twitter. Give us a follow there at Crim Media Group. That's CRIM Media Group. You may also connect with me, Joseph Arvidsson, on LinkedIn, and follow both the Criminologist Podcast and the Paragon Group on our LinkedIn pages. Lastly, if you've not already done so, you heard me promoting it during this episode, check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Criminologist, for additional content as to the themes of this program. Merchandise is available, so if you'd like a Criminologist coffee mug, pen, or refrigerator magnet, visit us at the Paragon Group, LLC.com, and look for the tab entitled Shop. That's where you can get details to all that great merchandise. And if you believe in what we're doing on the show, if you're part of the movement, please spread the word. Tell a friend or a coworker or a colleague about us. Ask them to subscribe to the podcast. And of course, do so yourself if you've not already done so. And always remember, folks, there's no them, there's only us.
The Criminologist Podcast is a production of the Paragon Group, LLC. For speaking engagements, interviews, program design, or training opportunities, please visit us at theparagongroup.llc.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can find more content and videos on our YouTube channel, The Criminologist. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Both the Criminologist Podcast and the Criminologist channel are brought to you by the Criminologist Media Group. Be sure to give us a 5-star review, and thanks for listening.